Welcome to the deep dive. We pull out the key ideas from our sources to help make sense of things.
Glad to be here.
So today, we're diving into something pretty fundamental, really. Our beliefs.
Yeah.
The material we looked at, it basically says beliefs. Well, they drive everything, right?
Right.
Our actions, even our health.
Absolutely. They're incredibly powerful. So yeah, let's explore how these often unseen ideas really shape our lives.
Okay, let's get straight into it.
And what's key, I think, right from the start, is that we're not really here to judge if a belief is right or wrong.
No, definitely not.
The focus is purely on the impact, how they steer our thoughts, feelings, and what happens because of them.
Exactly. And there's that great visual metaphor the source uses, Freud's iceberg model.
Ah, yes. Classics.
We all know the Titanic story, obviously. Huge ship, but it was the massive hidden part of the iceberg that caused the disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the idea here is similar. Our conscious stuff, what we do, our behaviors, that's just the tip.
Precisely. And it's what's underwater. Those deeper layers are underlying beliefs. That's where the real driving force is.
So our mission for this deep dive is to try and understand how these beliefs, especially the ones that the source calls limiting beliefs, how they can kind of sabotage us, often without us even realizing it, in, well, all sorts of areas.
And it's important to remember, like the source points out, this isn't about saying a belief is true or false. Health psychology just looks at how it influences behavior. That's the angle.
Got it. Okay, so that's the stage. Let's dig into this iceberg model a bit more. What are the layers?
Right. So the model basically has 3 levels. First, there's the bit above the water.
The visible part.
Yeah, exactly. Our behaviors, think about like how you dress, the way you talk, your gestures, all the outward stuff people see.
Okay, makes sense. Then what's just under the surface?
So just below the waterline, you've got thoughts and emotions. These aren't quite as obvious as actions, maybe, but we're usually aware of them ourselves. And, with a bit of effort, we can often guess what someone else might be thinking or feeling.
Right. You can kind of read the room sometimes or see it on someone's face.
Mm-hmm. But then there's the deep part, way below the surface.
The really hidden stuff.
That's where the source says our unconscious beliefs are hiding out, along with our core values, maybe old stuff we've pushed down, our basic needs, motivations, the really deep-seated programming.
Wow. So even though we can't directly see it,
it's constantly shaping what we do. It gets expressed through our behavior, as the source puts it.
And that ties straight into that Deepak Chopra quote the source used, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We become our beliefs.
Yeah, that nails it. It's so concise.
It really captures how fundamental these things are.
Yeah, it is. Our core beliefs essentially act like a filter, right? We see the world through them, interpret everything based on them.
And that interpretation then shapes our thoughts.
And our feelings, which then obviously drive what we do, and, well, the results we get, the outcomes.
And the kicker is, this whole system can be running largely on autopilot, outside our awareness.
Exactly. Which makes it powerful and sometimes problematic.
So the source gives this really relatable example, the fear of giving a wedding speech. Lots of people dread that, right?
Oh, definitely. Public speaking anxiety is huge. So imagine the core belief is something like, I'm just awful at public speaking.
Okay.
What happens next is pretty predictable, according to the source. You start getting these negative thoughts, right? Like picturing yourself totally blanking.
And getting the lines.
Or saying something really embarrassing, Total humiliation playing out in your head.
And those thoughts aren't just thoughts, are they? They trigger actual feelings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fear, dread, maybe just this overwhelming anxiety building up as the wedding gets closer.
Yeah. You can feel it just thinking about it.
And then this internal state, it starts showing up externally in your behavior. Well, the source gives examples like, maybe you keep putting off writing the speech because just thinking about it feels bad.
Procrastination, classic.
Right. Or maybe during the speech itself, you're fidgeting, you sound nervous, you rush through it, and afterwards...
I'll probably think never again.
Exactly. You actively avoid any situation that looks like public speaking in the future, which, of course, just reinforces the original fear.
And the outcome of the speech itself might not be great, which then just confirms that belief. See? I told you I was terrible at this.
It's a perfect self-fulfilling prophecy loop.
Wow. Okay.
And, while we have tons of beliefs about everything, this deep dive, following the source, is really zeroing in on those limiting beliefs.
The ones that get in our way.
The ones that actively stop us getting the results we actually want.
Okay, so if these hidden beliefs are so influential, the big question is obvious. How on earth do we find them? How do we bring them out?
Yeah, that's the crucial bit. And the source offers a pretty practical 3-step process to start uncovering them.
All right, let's hear it. Step 1.
Step 1 is basically identify an area in your life where things just aren't going the way you want, where you feel like you're hitting a wall.
Okay. Like what?
The source gives examples like maybe it's job interviews always going badly, or public speaking, like we just talked about, or maybe struggling to manage deadlines, or even having trouble in relationships.
So pick a specific struggle zone.
Exactly. Pinpoint something tangible where you feel frustrated or, stuck.
Right. Got it. So that's step 1. What's step 2?
Step 2, once you've got that area, is to list out honestly what's not working there. Be specific.
Like the symptoms.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Are you getting super nervous? Are you just not planning things out? Do you feel like you, lack the skills or the experience? Or maybe it's just low motivation or confidence holding you back.
So make a list of the problems within that area.
Yeah. Create a clear inventory of the specific challenges you're actually facing.
Okay. Area identified, problems listed. Now for step 3, this sounds like the deep dive part. How do we find the beliefs underneath?
This is where you connect the dots. For each thing you listed in step 2, each problem, you ask yourself this key question.
Okay.
What do I believe about myself, or maybe about other people, or just about the world in general that could be causing this?
Ah, okay. That's the core question.
Yeah. And the source gives some great examples to make it clearer.
Like what?
So, if job interviews are the problem area, maybe digging down reveals a belief like, I believe I'm just not outgoing enough, or I believe I'm not articulate.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's relationship trouble, maybe it's, I believe others will eventually let me down. For public speaking, maybe I believe only naturally talented people can do that well.
Or for career stuff, maybe I believe there just aren't enough good jobs out there for someone with my skills.
Exactly. These examples show how those surface frustrations, those things you listed in step 2, can often link back to these deeper, often unconscious assumptions.
Assumptions about ourselves, about others, about how the world works.
Right. And what's interesting, the source hints at this, is that sometimes when you actually voice these beliefs, they can sound kind of, maybe not entirely rational when you hear them out loud.
Yeah, bringing them into the light can expose them a bit.
Definitely. And the source also makes a really good point. If you find this self-questioning tricky, which many people do,
it's hard to see your own blind spots.
Exactly. So getting perspective from someone who knows you well, or maybe a coach or a mentor, that can be super helpful in uncovering these things.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we go through this process. Area, problems, then digging for the underlying beliefs.
Yeah.
What's the payoff? Why go through this potentially uncomfortable self-reflection?
Well, the source points out that just the act itself, the self-reflection, building self-awareness, is valuable for growth, period.
True.
But the main benefit is about regaining control, really. Once a belief is dragged out of the unconscious and into conscious awareness,
You can actually look at it.
You can look at it, you can question it, you can challenge it, and that gives you the power, the agency to potentially change your patterns and start getting different results. It taps into those ideas about cognitive restructuring in psychology.
So it's like finally spotting that hidden part of the iceberg that's been steering your ship off course.
Yeah.
Now you can actually choose to navigate around it or maybe even try to, chip away at it.
Exactly. You can avoid the collision. The source uses that strong image, right? Preventing the iceberg taking down a passenger liner, a business initiative, or your career.
It's a powerful visual.
And there's that C.S. Lewis quote the source includes, which fits perfectly here.
Which one was that?
You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
Ah, yeah. That's good.
Recognizing these limiting beliefs is about starting where you are right now with more clarity. It lets you make conscious choices to write a different ending for yourself.
So moving from being driven by these hidden forces to actually taking the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Becoming more conscious, more intentional. And the source even suggests, if people feel they need more support with this, things like coaching can help guide that process.
Right, getting some outside help to navigate.
But ultimately, it all comes back to that core idea we started with. Our beliefs, these assumptions we carry, often totally unexamined.
Mm-hmm.
They have this incredible influence. They shape our thoughts, spark our emotions, drive our actions, and ultimately, they carve out the path of our lives.
And that iceberg model is just such a sticky, useful way to picture it, isn't it? A constant reminder that what we see It's just the surface.
It really is. So much is going on underneath.
So the encouragement for listeners then is maybe to try engaging with those 3 steps we talked about.
Yeah, just pick one area, one place where you feel a bit stuck or frustrated, and just start exploring gently, what unseen beliefs might be lurking under the surface there.
And maybe, here's a final thought to leave people with, thinking about that one area where you feel stuck. What could those submerged iceberg-like beliefs be? And maybe more practically.
Yeah.
What's just one small thing, one tiny step you could take, say, this week, to try and bring one of those potential beliefs out into the open, into your conscious awareness?
Because, as we've sort of unpacked here, just gaining that visibility, seeing the belief for what it is, that really is the first essential step towards having the chance to change things.
Seeing is the first step to steering differently. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.